definitely do not want to miss this session. And please do remember to subscribe to this channel so that we can be able to produce more for you. And then also leave a comment, tell us what you want to hear more of, what you'd like us to do more of, and ask us questions so that we can be back to answer them. Again, I'm here with Michael Ohiniefa. Let's assume you have to turn back the hands of time. Would you ask me to marry you? Michael, in fact, you never asked me to marry you. This is like a long-standing debate. But would you ask me, would you still choose Letitia?
If I had to be born again as
born
a man,
again. And grow
up, if I had to, knowing what I know now as a man, if I was presented with a choice, 1,000 women, Miss World, 1,000 of them, you inside that 1,000, I will make that choice.
Why?
I've given you the 3 reasons.
Those are your 3 reasons?
I've given you the reasons.
There's got to be more than that.
I can go into 100 reasons. Do you want the 100?
Yeah, I do.
There's no time.
Oh, we have plenty. We have plenty of time.
There's no time.
We literally cleared our calendar for this conversation.
I've given you a lot of reasons why I think this is working.
Why do you think a marriage thrives? What are the, if you had to summarize or have 3 reasons or 3 things that makes any marriage thrive, what would it be?
A few years ago, I learned something. One guy had just gotten married and asked people to share with him the secret to a successful, happy, lasting marriage. And people just sent him advice. So he had a group put it into an algorithm and check it out. And he settled on 2 things. Of all the advice from 3,000 people that came in, when they distilled it, they found out that for people who were married less than 10 years, the key to the sustenance of the marriage was communication. And for people above 14 years, the key to the sustenance of their marriages was respect. These 2, 3,000 marriages, response, advice. And I think we have a certain practice. When I say we, you and I, we have a certain practice of talking, communicating, discussing. I would say that has helped us. And then also in the last couple of years, we have been deliberate about how we resolve conflict. So that is also helping us. So if you were to ask me for top 3 in terms of what has brought us this far and what will help other marriages, communication, talk over everything, discuss everything. No subject should be out of bounds. There should be no secret cow in a marriage. There should be no off-limit areas that, let's not talk about this. No. When it happens, it will harm the marriage. It will harm the relationship. 2, respect for each other, for our wishes, for our needs, for our wants, for what makes us who we are. Respect. And then handle conflict effectively. Conflict doesn't kill a marriage. It is unresolved conflict that kills a marriage or a relationship. And so having a certain system in place that say, okay, we can go over this, we can discuss this, we can, clear this hurdle. Anytime there's conflict, this is how we like to resolve it. I think if you give me these 3, any marriage can live up to 70 years.
Where does sex come into this picture? Off limits conversations.
Where does it come into where?
Into this 3.
Oh, it's a given. I don't think sex itself is a problem. I think the discussions and conversations around it and what it means for the parties involved. Some people thrive on it. Some people see it as an addition. Some people see it as the core. It depends on the people that we are dealing with. But whatever it is part of the nurturing It's part of the cultivation of the marriage. Just like food, just like water, just like communication.
You did bring it in
like
your top 3. That's why I'm curious.
Yeah, I don't think it's a major issue, as I said. If you can do it 5 times a day, but if there's no respect, it will, in and of itself, it doesn't resolve any issue.
All right, so let's talk about communication. Talking about everything doesn't necessarily mean the other person understands or buys into. So
that's why I didn't say talking, I said communication.
You said communication, but you said talk about everything. That's why I want to come back there. Because then I don't want somebody to leave thinking that all we're asking you to do is to talk, because talking doesn't mean you've communicated.
That's true.
Somebody must understand, and based on that understanding, there must be a certain level of agreement. So let's make sure that we're putting that in proper context. So they said we should talk, so we are talking. Like, we don't want to have homes struggling because of that. So how would you start a conversation? Do we actually have a lot of difficult conversations? Because importantly, we are married, we manage business, we manage a home, and 2 incredibly amazing children. And then we have, like, there's a lot that we do together, so we're always in each other's space. So how do we communicate effectively? What are some of those things? And it's some of the things that a lot of people ask us, for example. How are you able to even work together?
Well, I think the first is posture or the mindset. Having a mindset that I want to listen. Having a mindset that you can talk to me. That posture is very important. It's primary. The attitude that I want to hear you. Some people have the problem of your opinion don't matter in this marriage, either from the man or the woman. And so the posture is wrong, and therefore it doesn't encourage even the communication. So the first thing is the attitude, the posture that we both bring to anything we are discussing. Then number 2 is the willingness to shift. Where we have the attitude of my mind is already made up. And that's why I said that for some marriages, some issues, when it comes to some issues, it's like, no, this is a red line. It's a hard red line. My mind on this issue, don't, this is mine. When you do it that way, then there will never be a discussion around the issue. It could be, sometimes it's family.
You just dance around critical crisis.
Sometimes it's family. Sometimes it's about a particular sibling. Sometimes it's about the job. Sometimes about some friend B, whether male or female. Sometimes it's about money. And one or the other says, as for this issue, don't go there. I'm not listening to you. So you already shut the door to communication. And so that's why I said that there shouldn't be secret cows in a marriage. So these things is what will either engender or endanger communication. So both parties must be willing to say, okay, this is it. I'm ready to listen. What do you have to say? And then the other one is having the attitude of, okay, I will shift. Some people have an attitude of, no matter what you do, I'm not shifting. You have a business partner who keeps giving the marriage problems, and you say, no, Lila, this house for this month is the same, or this woman is the person who gives me business. Why do you want me to start doing business? The other one is, do we really listen to listen? Or we just listen to reply, as Stephen Covey says.
Listen to understand.
Yes, the problem of a lot of communication issues in the world, at homes, in churches, in business organizations, in governments, is that people listen with the intent to reply.
Because I think it's a defense mechanism.
Good.
For most people.
Good.
So then you need to also understand your default defense posture in order for you to be able to even be in tune in the marriage.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So a lot of the time we don't hear, we don't listen, we only hear. And so somebody is talking, but you are not understanding the person, because either your mind is made up, oh yeah, as for women, that's how they are, as for men, that's how they are. As for, sometimes even try, as my wife is the same, because those people there, that's how. When you do that, anytime they talk, you are only hearing them, you are not listening to them. You are not listening to their ask, their ASK, their need. And so we keep having this conversation for 7 years because nobody is listening. And if you are not listening, you can't do anything about it. So it's very, very important that you listen for what the person is saying, what the person is not saying, and what they want to say. Then you can really do something about it and resolve the issue.
There are instances, thanks to the work we do, where there are particular partners who one person is always expected to shift. And in our parts of the world, it is the woman most of the time who's expected to shift at all times.
Yeah.
The man doesn't seem to have to shift. The man doesn't seem to have to grow in terms of getting to your core, understanding who you are, how my temperament is playing out in this relationship, how it's even playing out at work, how do I work on myself. A lot of personal development, and again, in our parts of the world, seems to be that it is the woman who must do the shift. How do we support, what would you say to your male colleagues who are in that space, and how have you yourself managed it?
Well, it's once again, it comes back to our earlier conversations concerning grounding. I think when you are a man who is comfortable within yourself and you are grounded, you don't, for instance, need to remind your wife that you are the man. When you have to remind your wife you are the man, you are not a man. You've lost it. And part of the key question here is, how do some men define their manhood? Because some men define
that's
their
like
manhood,
a whole conversation.
Yes, some men define their manhood by their ability to subject their wives to humiliation and to constant obedience, because that's what makes them feel good. That is what they call toxic masculinity, So once again, we need to support a number of brothers to be comfortable within themselves and in their skin, not to need a wife's respect, a wife's obedience to feel that they are men. So the issue is deeper than women shifting. Really, the work has to be on the men, because a lot of men are husbanding based on what they saw their fathers do, based on what they heard their grandfathers do, forgetting that the context is very different. The generation in which they are living is very, very different. The women that their husbands to are very, very different. If we can get men to be comfortable in their skin, to stay grounded, and to love themselves for who they are, they don't need external respect. They don't need to remind the woman. And they don't need to say, do this simply because I say so. I agree, it's a much, much wider conversation that needs to be had.
What are your major struggles in this relationship?
Which one?
You and I. What do I do as a wife that just drives you absolutely nuts?
Do you really want me to share?
Oh, yeah.
We shall get there.
Off limits.
The battle is the Lord.
Oh, there's nothing off the table. So what do I do that drives you absolutely insane?
Well, I think I have grown to know you better as the years go by. I've grown to understand you better.
It's a very diplomatic response.
No, why are you preempting my answer?
Okay.
I've grown to appreciate you better as the years go by. I think initially I struggled with what I then saw as your very opinionated nature. Of course, forgetting that you grew up differently in a different culture that allowed, that pushed you actually to speak up. And so that became who you are. It became an integral part of your person. And when you now come to live in Ghana, where you are expected to, always kowtow to the opinion of either your husband or a superior or a boss, And it took me a bit of time to appreciate that difference. When I appreciated it, I think it changed the nature of our relationship. So, as the slang goes, I'm cool with that.
So basically, I'm opinionated.
I didn't say it.
Yes. But I said it.
I didn't say it.
Yeah.
Yes.
You almost sound
this
like...
message has been endorsed by the FDA.
It just reminds me of one of the very first conversations I had with Joel, who said I was too known until he realized I was his cousin. And then he just went, "Oh, you're very confident." And I'm like, how do you use the word confidence and too known in the same sentence? So I think perspective is important also in relationship, and acknowledging the fact that people are different, they've been cultured differently. So when we come into a space, irrespective of having, and I think one of the things that supports us is having a unified values that guide us.